Okay, guys, this is the Angry Prepper. So, it's 3 o'clock in the morning in New York, and I don't do videos ever this early, but I just happened to watch the State of Address, or State of Union of Address, from Putin, right? So, President Putin addressed his nation, or his country, if you will, stating a couple of interesting things that, after watching his State of Address, it seems like, guys, shit's going to escalate pretty fucking fast from here on out. Now, again, this is not fear-mongering. This is just looking at the things he was saying. Now, I do tend to take things that Russia says with a grain of salt because they've been world's biggest liars. I mean, listen, most countries are, but Russia is like the grandstanding of all countries. That being said, some of the things he said are not alarming, but things that you should put in the back of your head in case it comes up down the line. Now, it seems like this whole thing between Russia and the West are going to escalate. Russia and Ukraine are absolutely going to escalate within the next few days. So as of right now, there's a partial mobilization of Russian reserve force. So he's not taking the entire reserve force. He's taking certain members with particular skills, if you will, and activating them and putting them back in service. He's also running a special election, if you will, with 4 regions, sorry. It's these regions here, and they're going to vote. They're going to have the people of those regions or areas vote to see if they want to be a part of Russia. So after attacking Ukraine and winning those regions back, now he's asking those people to vote. So the vote is going to be running from Friday to Tuesday, right? So that's 4 days. So that's interesting in itself. Again, guys, I don't trust this guy or anything he says, but the mobilization, somebody on my live stream earlier today had mentioned that he was going to start the draft. So he's not starting a draft, but he is putting his reserve force, he is mobilizing his reserve force, but not all of them. He also mentioned that there was some kind of blackmail with NATO members wanting to use nuclear weapons against Russia. He seemed agitated when he got to that part of his speech, so maybe there's some validity to that. I don't know. But being that he said they threatened him with nuclear arms, now he's turning around and saying, well, we have better nuclear weapons, we have better capabilities, or technology, sorry, is what he said. I am going to post the address, the Russian Union address, in the description section below so you guys can take a look at it. Again, things look like they're about to escalate pretty fucking fast. And at least for Ukraine, it's really going to escalate. When he made that threat, guys, about using nuclear weapons, he also followed it up with, I'm not bluffing. So it seems this time that he's saying that he's going to use it and he's not bluffing. Maybe he's a little more serious now than he was the past few threats he made over the last year, if you will. Probably over the last year and a half, right? Because he's been making threats as early as last year. So with that, guys, he's definitely looking to get his gun off, if you know what I mean, because it doesn't make sense that you want to protect the Russian people, as he stated a few times in that State of the Union address, or addressing his country. He mentioned that a few times about protecting the land and his people, but then turns around and talks about wanting to start lobbing nuclear weapons because NATO threatened it. Now, we all know NATO is scared of Russia, so there's no way NATO is threatening Russia with nuclear war. So again, guys, that paranoia, that agitation I saw in his face looked like there was something off. You watch the video and you tell me. He also mentioned those who threaten nuclear war will quickly have the tables turned on them. So again, he's already lined up to do something if they start. But it seems like he's waiting for them, NATO or us, to start the nuclear war. So if that's what he's waiting for, then we might not see a nuclear war, because I don't see the United States or Russia starting any shit. I know some of you Russian idiots out there are going to say, well, there's going to be a false flag event. Well, it's not a false flag event once it fucking happens. Once nuclear war happens, that's not false flag. And they're not going to blame anybody else, because Russia has a lot of people on their side. So I don't know who else they're going to blame. He also states that the United States and Brussels has some kind of plan to move the war onto Russian ground. I find that pretty interesting that he even knows that, and I find it even more interesting that the United States and Brussels, or he actually said Washington, not the United States, said Washington, or he meant Washington, D.C., and Brussels had this plan to move the war there. I'm thinking maybe the UK would have been more part of that, but whatever. He was throwing a lot of accusations out there, and he had nothing to back it up. All he had was his words. He had nothing to show for it. So again, when you have politicians like Putin just saying shit, he knows that there's a large majority of idiots that'll believe him just because he's speaking. Sort of like we have idiots that believe everything Biden says. So it's one and the same. But nonetheless, guys, Putin seems to just be saying all kinds of shit in this state of address. Now, as far as I could see, I was watching, while I was watching it, a couple of analysts were on, and they're kind of nervous, or at least they seem nervous, because they don't know where this is going to go. They're thinking, if he's threatening nuclear war, what is his behavior going to be like? Is he going to set it off, or is he going to wait? Now, he made it sound like he was going to wait. He made it sound like he was going to wait for the first nuclear attack, and then he was going to retaliate. That's what he made it sound like, but I don't know. The analysts seem to be a little more nervous than I am, and I'm not nervous. I'm like, all right, listen, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But nonetheless, guys, the constant threats, something's got to go. Somebody's got to launch something at some point. The constant back and forth threats isn't working anymore. So the decree of partial mobilization was signed today. So the mobilization of those military dudes, the Russian Reserve Force, goes into effect today. So they're going to start calling certain members back into play, whatever that means. Now, if he's calling certain members, I'm so curious as to find out which members of what branch of military service in Russia he's calling, what unit rather, sorry, that he's calling up, because he's not calling them all up. He's only calling some of them, like you said, partial. And he stressed partial a few times in the speech. So again, guys, things are getting interesting. I'm still not convinced that we're going to see a nuclear war, at least this year. We might see one next year, but who knows? Being that he looked a little unhinged in that speech, especially towards the end of his speech. In the beginning, he seemed calm, cool, and collected, and towards the end, you could see that irritation and everything he was saying towards the end. So who knows, man? But all I'm putting out there, guys, is that listen to the speech. I'm going to put it in the description section below. I'm going to give you the time block because I was watching Sky News. And by the way, the translation was horrible. Whoever was translating for Putin should be shot, because it was fucking horrible. It was bad. You'll see what I mean when you're looking at it. But anyway, guys, it's something worth listening to, and it's something worth putting in the back of your head. Don't worry about it. Put it in the back of your head. Again, Putin's been threatening to kill the United States, or rather kill the West, for years. And it does seem like it's getting a little more interesting, and it's getting closer to an actual nuclear war, but we will see. I think that if nuclear weapons start being launched, I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as we think it is, but it doesn't matter if 1 or 2 hit here, or 7 hit here, and 8 hit them, or 9 hit them. It's still bad. But I don't know. I mean, everything right now is, for me, is like, we should all wait and see. I'm not worried about it. I just thought it was very interesting that he made this speech today, and he activated his Russian Reserve Force, and he's having a special election for those regions to join the Russian people. So their military force could be big as well. And they did admit to having military personnel problems. That's why he's also doing the partial mobilization, because, like a lot of people were saying, they lost a lot of troops in this war with Ukraine. And I know a lot of you people were sitting there saying, oh, he's going to take Ukraine with no problem. Well, now we're like 6 months, 7 months later, or 7 months later, and he's still having a problem. He lost so many troops, he has to do partial mobilization of his reserve force now. So, again, there's got to be some validity to what we're hearing about the Russians not quite winning, but not quite losing either. All right, guys. Anyway, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching.